thank you very much for coming back for the first part of the kind of presentations sessions. We have a really great lineup from different disciplines, different approaches. And our first speaker, I'm delighted to introduce Carolina Némethy from the Arctic University of Norway, where she's a PhD fellow at the Department of Social Anthropology as part of the Earth Project. And in her work, she has been exploring the beautiful source of her mother's experiences with Chinese medicines. She has been exploring human and non-human relations in Chinese medicine and the whole ontology of human non-human relations through this lens. Thank you, Carolina, for being our first speaker. Thank you.
Well, after these wonderful presentations, and thank you, by the way, for sending a message about this lovely join this lovely workshop, and for all of you organizing this. It's an honor to be here. While I present, I was thinking, why not show a particle of fungus, so you can pass around inspect it in this beautiful box, which we have given
That's the one from The Last of Us, right? So that's
you might be wondering, some of you probably know, some of you might be wondering what this is. So I'm in anthropology, and I work with traditional Chinese medicine, and one of the first things in this prescription journal my mother had 22 years ago, which I found really interesting and got inspired to look into traditional Chinese medicine, was this rounded particle of fungus. And it's a very charismatic species, one could say, in China. And in Asia specifically, in particular, because it's seen as this health food and with amazing powers in the immune system, or it's also known as the Himalayan Viagra. So what I'll be looking into here is how this seen in traditional Chinese medicine, and how this traditional Chinese medicine is also being rationalized, part of a rationalization process that is, in general, being done to traditional Chinese medicine. So this is the journal. It looks very messy. It was handwritten back in the day when it was all still handwritten. Now they make digitalized versions, and it's a assemblage of various species. And it's the very first one. You can't really see it here. That one right there. That is the Dongshangtatao, and it means literally winter insect and summer herb. Because in the winter it's still an insect, and then during the summer it becomes a herb that they can use for medicine. And in traditional Chinese medicine, there is an adaptation to change. So we were looking at a human body, and 1 week they will get a particular prescription, and this is like the first date, so you can see the change during the time, the first week or two. And then the next week, they'll get a completely different assemblage of herbs to treat their body. So I found it theoretically really interesting to look into how something like a fungus that is marketed as this super healing supplement that everybody can buy to be healthy is actually part of the family of medicine. And the reason for this is that the different herbs work together to cancel out there's side effects, which makes it a little more interesting. So the cordyceps fungus, some of you may know, it's on the next slide, it's the ghost moth that looks like this. There's a that then lays eggs, and there's a caterpillar underground, gets infected by the fungus, and then becomes the fungus itself. And then that is being, that's on the Tibetan Qinghai Plateau in China, but it's also found in surrounding areas. It's really high altitudes. I wanted to go there this year, and I was there during the season, and I couldn't go because they told me it's 3,000 to 500 meters high. I get altitude sickness, so very unfortunate, because 1 in 10 people get really sick. I happen to be one of them. I couldn't go to see people harvest this. Very sad, but at least I got this in the market. So Yunnan, the southwestern province in China, has the largest mushroom market, where you can find these, as well as reishi and all kinds. It's a wonderful place to visit if you're a mushroom fanatic. So this is how it looks like in a Chinese materia medica. The way the mushroom is seen is very different from how one would see it in Western, according to Western science, because this is a long tradition that's been thousands of years being also transformed, and seeing it as part of, in terms of yin yang, qi, and what called the different humors, and the way it relates to certain organs in the body, but also the tastes. Different tastes are related to different health functions. So, and what I noticed when I was looking through the English translation of a Chinese materia medica is also the way the quality of the cordyceps has to do with the particular environment in which it grows because of the high altitude. So there is this whole awareness with the mushroom in connection with the environment that is a very, I would say, situated in China. Of course, they have Tibetan medicine, in which it is also a product. And just to give you a brief introduction, in China, the traditional medicine is very diverse because you have ethnic minority medicine. So what I'm talking about here is the institutionalized, sort of large-scale traditional Chinese medicine that's being promoted through the state. And what happens in the process, they look at the state of health in general, post-diagnosis. There's 28 different kinds of cancers. They look at the tongue, how the tongue looks like, the breath, the texture, and they'll even ask you questions, how are you dreaming? And in a traditional Tibetan medicine, it's also known the entire villages make money out of harvesting these. In reality, there are 400 species worldwide, but only 2 are of medicinal value. The Sinensis, the one that I showed you here, and there is Cordyceps militaris, which has this special, it's called cordyceps, or in a much smaller amount, and it's really useful in Europe. So this is the thing. Is where it's most concentrated, and then it goes down. So it's a very limited area where this particular one that's used in Chinese traditional medicine is used only in the wild, they say, for now. And there is a blurred boundary between food and medicine, especially when in traditional medicines, such as in China. And all medicine is, all food is medicine, but not all medicine is food, because it may contain poison. So there's a saying in Chinese, all medicine is a little bit of poison. And so they work together to counter it. So even this cordyceps mushroom is not recommended for everyone. And the example that they give is it is not recommended for treating coughs with yin deficiency with blazing fire. I'm not sure how to explain this, and I'm still trying to figure it out myself. But this is basically according to Chinese theory. So this is cordyceps as a food, on the other hand, which is being commercialized. And you can see them on advertisements all over China, on the metro, or all these huge advertisements. There was a stand in cordyceps. It feels very bizarre to go on the street with these zombie type mushrooms around. They're being steeped in alcohol. And this is a vulnerable species. So this is what makes it all the more interesting in terms of the multi-species approach, because a very vulnerable species is being extracted, and it's basically everywhere on advertisements. And this is how they are sold. Or also, it's the most expensive mushroom in the world. So, so that one that I'm passing about, I only bought one. It's about 100 krona. And so this was, I don't know where I got this exactly how many years ago it cost that much, but it fluctuates quite a bit. And it's presented in a very expensive way behind glass. And in Yunnan province where it's found, I couldn't find the large specimens that you can find in Hong Kong, for example. So it's really big cities that buy the most expensive ones. And this is just an example of different adulterants they use because it's such a big market. So obviously you're going to have so-called fakes, or the alternative one, which is much cheaper, can be grown artificially, even though it has a lot less of the same chemical. And harvesting. Season starts around mid-April, sometimes in May, depending on location, until end of June. And what people do is they crawl in these really high altitudes, finding the mushrooms for entire days. So pretty rough conditions, but they make enormous amounts of money. And not surprisingly, there is conflict over land. So several years ago, 7 people have died in a particular area in Tibet, a village, because of these conflicts. So I'm looking at wild charismatic of the Cordyceps sinensis, as they're called. It's they're seen as most valuable, but there is this central concerns over vulnerability, but also the concentration of metals, because it's all only wild. Something here. And this leads us to processes of rationalization, because the medicine itself has been modernizing for a while. They're bringing to technologies, how to extract this chemical to make it more affordable, and how to artificially cultivate it. And they're explaining it in modern medical terms, because traditional Chinese medicine, as all traditional medicines, is seen as something that requires explanation from our Western science point of view. So it's an interesting area to see a coexistence of the charismatic and process of rationalization. So naturalism versus analogism, where analogism is a way to describe, for instance, Chinese traditional medicine, because it shows how the notion of internal and physical characteristics as being individual and unique, and as well as despite this rationalizing process, there is a very common term to describe herbs like cordyceps in terms of the yin, or embodied magical efficacy. So the heart itself is that was it.